before directed to be taken, and that's in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2, which says income taxes and representation shall be by apportionment, which I will show you. I like to show everybody the rules. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2. Alright? Just so everybody's on the same wavelength. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2. Where are we at here? Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2. Representatives and direct taxes shall be by apportionment among the several states which may be included within the Union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding the whole number. Alright, we got the idea. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless by the proportion to the census or enumeration as hereinbefore directed to be taken. Well, folks, they're not using the census. They're not using apportionment issue at all. They're evading it totally. Now, there's several arguments here, and it's very catchy, so I want you to pay close attention. Alright? One of the arguments I want to share with you is brought by an infamous, outstanding judge, Judge Beers. He's the gentleman that actually lived the movie Cheaper by the Dozen. He went out and had 2 wives and had 12 kids by each. Man's got a lot of guts. All them kids went to college, too, I want to tell you. Every one of them. I know some of them personally myself. One of them is the director of the law library at Oakland County Court. Excellent people. But Judge Beers got mad, and he called up Jimmy Carter, and he told him, look, we need to have a raise for our judges because we're not keeping up with inflation, etc., etc. And Jimmy told him, no way, Jose, and so Judge Beers filed in court the case of Evans versus Gore, recorded at 253 U.S. 245. Judge Evans sued I.R. Gore of the Internal Revenue Service because he claimed that the Internal Revenue Service diminished his salary during his continuance in office. And we all know that judges of the Supreme Court and inferior court shall hold their office during good behavior and shall receive for their services a valuable compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. That's Article 3, Paragraph 1. Wait, I'm sorry. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Article 3, Paragraph 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in the Supreme Court and such inferior courts as may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges both of the Supreme Court and inferior court shall hold their office during good behavior and shall receive at stated times for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Well, guess what, Your Honor? They diminished my salary during my continuance in office. You'll notice that there was no diminishment specified, so all diminishment is forbidden. Okay? And since all diminishment is forbidden, I am constitutionally immune from your income taxes. The Supreme Court came back and said, excellent argument. The 16th Amendment didn't create any new taxing power whatsoever, and clearly, Judge Evans is immune from income taxes, based on the Article 3, Paragraph 1 constitutional immunity. So up jumped the devil in the deep blue sea. Jimmy Carter was most unhappy, so he had to give the judges all a raise to shut him up. And he took his wrath out on Judge Beers, and he went and published the fact that Judge Beers was a bigamist, and he kind of trashed him and got him disbarred and thrown off the bench, which I didn't think was a very nice thing to do at all, because Judge Beers was a good judge. Now, how does this affect you? Basically, this case of Evans versus Gore makes 2 basic statements. 1, the 16th Amendment didn't create any new taxing power, and 2, there was, what? An acceptable, possible immunity to the income tax, right? Whoa, I said. Let's go back to Article 1, Section 9, Paragraph 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless by the rule of apportionment as hereinbefore directed to be taken. Didn't I have a right to be free from a direct tax on my property? A direct tax is one where I actually come in your pocket and I tax it. I had a right to be free from a direct tax on my property unless by the rule of apportionment as hereinbefore directed to be taken in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2. Does that mean I'm constitutionally immune? It sure does. But you have to tell them and demand that it's a direct tax. You got to say it's a direct tax on my property. Now what are they going to do? They're going to come around and tell you this isn't under Title 26, this is under Title 27. And that really you're a coal miner, or you're a miner of some kind, or you're a manufacturing handgun someplace. Well, you ask them, all right, let's see the Form 4456. They'll send you to Form 4456, and sure enough, they're going to have you down under some excise tax where they're charging you under BATF for having some fraudulent claim that you're involved in mining or something that requires an excise tax, and that for the privilege of doing business, you have to pay a fee because you're a corporation, an officer of a corporation, or you reside in the District of Columbia. Now let's ask you, that's Section 6331A of the Code. Look up Section 6331A. Those are the only guys that the Treasury Department can levy against. That's the only ones. Are you any of those? No. How could that be? You're not any of those, they can't levy against you. If they can't levy against you, there's no jurisdiction over you. Got me? Does that make clear? I mean, if they could levy against you, they'd have jurisdiction. Now, if they levy against you and you pay them, guess what? You just gave them jurisdiction. You sign their documents, you sign their W-4 form, you don't put down there, like I told you, UD 1-207 without prejudice, guess what? You're in. So, you think. Now, isn't that fraud? Doesn't fraud void the contract? You need to read, folks. We need to get you down here and we need to read. There's so many beautiful arguments in here, I mean, we can just hammer them. What is income? There is no income defined anywhere in the Code. Oh, Section 61A of the Code says income is wages. No, it doesn't. It says Section 61A of the Code says this is a list of sources from which income could be derived. Not necessarily is be, but could be. And it's compensation. Now, think about the word compensation. Look it up in Black's Law Dictionary. You're going to find out compensation, to make whole. Now, if you're out there and you painted your neighbor's barn, and he told you he'd give you $300 by Christmas, all right? You painted the barn, and Christmas came, and he didn't pay you the $300. Wouldn't you have a loss on paper? You would, wouldn't you? And wouldn't you have a gain? He would, wouldn't he? Now, let's say he pays you the $300. What do you got? Do you have a loss? No. Does he have a gain? No. What happened? An equal exchange of property. What happened? You changed your time of life property in labor for his consideration. You have a 0-0 balance. You aren't ahead and he isn't behind. And you aren't behind and he isn't ahead. That is compensation. That's what it means. To make whole. Now, what happens if he doesn't pay you? Doesn't he have a gain? He would have a profit, wouldn't he? A realized profit or gain. He got you to work for him and he didn't pay you, right? And you would have a loss, right? Does that make sense to you? Now, the only way you would have income, by the way they define it in Brusheber versus Union Pacific and some of these other cases, Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust, first you would have to have a realized gain from some source, right? Before the period under consideration happened. Now, did you get paid any more than you agreed to? You didn't, did you? You got paid $300. You agreed to $300, you got $300. If you got $301, you had a gain. And if you were a corporation, an officer of a corporation, and a person that resided in the District of Columbia was an officer of the government, you'd have a income. But you're not any of those. You're not a corporation. You're not an officer of a corporation. You don't reside in the District of Columbia as an officer of government. So you're, first of all, not even in the game. Second of all, you didn't receive anything above what you bargained for. Okay? So you don't have a realized profit or gain before the period under consideration was commenced, so you don't have any income. What you have is compensation. Before it can become income, it would have to be corporate property. You'd have to be a corporation, and you'd have to have a realized profit or gain. You don't have that. So don't tell anybody you have income. You ain't got none. Every time you volunteer to get in that, you get in trouble. Don't volunteer. Didn't they tell you that in the Army? Don't volunteer. You volunteer, you get the broom, and you get to drive it around the floor. Just ask me, I'll tell you. I know. Now, the bottom line is this. There's a lot of things that you need to know. The biggest thing is that you need to get a hold of one of these books, and you need to read it, cover to cover. And you need to be able to rattle it, just like I told you. And you need to trust your God in heaven above, in whom you should put all your trust and love. And you need to kick some tail and try and coordinate this. Program, format. You understand? Holy Bible? We got it? You need to get with the program. We can't keep screwing around like this, folks. You can't keep putting off till tomorrow.